Perfect.
Welcome to the Mason Duchatschek Show. This episode is brought to you by Workforce Alchemy, helping leaders improve hiring, engagement, and retention while uncovering people-related profit leaks hidden in everyday operations. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a true master of visibility, personal branding, and strategic influence, Christine Blosdale. She's known globally as the expert authority coach, and she has spent over 25 years helping entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, consultants, and business leaders stop playing small and start commanding the attention they deserve by clarifying their message, amplifying their visibility, and building unforgettable brands. She's a 5-time #1 best-selling author and award-winning media personality and host of the Expert Authority Coach podcast, where she has guided hundreds of professionals to go from overlooked to in demand. Christine, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mason. And as a fellow podcaster, that was a fantastic introduction. I'm really impressed with your show. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, especially from halfway around the world. I didn't realize that it's 6:30 in the morning there, and it's about 2:35 in the afternoon here. So here's some modern technology, right?
I would move heaven and earth to be with you. So, and I actually start at 6 a.m. My day starts at 6 a.m. because a lot of my clients are in the United States, especially on the East Coast. So
Yeah. In what part of Australia are you located?
I'm near Sydney,
Okay.
Australia. Yeah.
All right. Well, your journey into business coaching
Mm.
and media wasn't linear. Can you
No.
share how your early experiences in broadcasting and media shaped who you are now and what you do
Yeah.
for a living?
Yes. Well, actually, my opinion on things started being rewarded and recognized when I was really young. And my mother, at the time, back in the day, I'm 61 now, so you can imagine, my mother was an immigrant. She was from Morocco, Casablanca, and didn't speak great English, but she was a single mom. And so she would have to, work, and I would be sitting there with her, watching her get ready. And my mother was very beautiful. My mother was a blend between Sophia Loren, Cher, and Elizabeth Taylor. If you could blend them all together, that's who my mom was, right? And so I would be just mesmerized watching her get ready, putting on her makeup and getting dressed. And she would put on her outfit to go to work, and she would look at me and she'd say, "Christine," in her little Moroccan accent, "how do I look?" And I'd go, I was like 4 or 5. I was so young, and I just remember looking at her outfit, and I go, "The top is great, the skirt is but those shoes, no, put the boots on. You need the go-go boots," right? And she would change. She would listen to my advice, and she would change. Now, this is a grown-ass woman,
Sure.
who was dressed very fashionably back in the day, but she gave me at a really young age the opportunity to express what I felt was a better option for her. So at a really young age, I understood that my opinion was valued. Okay. And not all kids around the world get that, but I got that. And so, as you do, you go through life and, you do all the things. And I was very impressed with a teacher. I always wanted to be a teacher because I had a teacher in elementary school that was so wonderful. And I always felt safe and heard and understood by this teacher. So I was hoping to become a teacher when I grew up. And then I found out how much they pay public school teachers. I mean, I went through the whole thing. I graduated, I got a teaching credential. And then I was like, oh, no, this isn't what I imagined it to be. And so I kind of floundered for a little while trying to find myself and became a fitness coach and all these different things. And then I got an opportunity that was so amazing. I just applied for this little place called America Online. They were looking for columnists because they didn't have video back then. And if you remember America Online, I don't know, back in the day, that's all there was. There was no YouTube. There was no TikTok or Facebook. It was just America Online or AOL. And that
Sure.
screechy sound when you turned it on.
Oh, yeah. Modem dialing in. I totally remember that.
You remember that?
I
And
do.
you would hear that, "You've got mail." You'd hear that and you go, "Oh, I'm connected to the world." And so I got a really lucky break that I got to write on one of the most popular channels of AOL, the entertainment section. And I got to do Hollywood stuff. I wrote through a cartoon character because who cares about Christine Blosdale's opinion? It was a very vampy, campy Hedda Hopper kind of cartoon character called Beatbox Betty. And don't ask me to beatbox because I can't. But through this character that I wrote through, I got to do brutally honest movie reviews. I was at all the premieres and did other press junkets and interviewed directors and actors and actresses and all of that stuff. And it was great fun, but I had to write for an audience. My demographic that I had to focus on was very wide. It was from 8 to 80. And that's a pretty big
That's a very,
that's
very big.
that was AOL. It was like you need to be intriguing for the 8-year-olds, and 80-year-olds need to love you as well. So I studied sort of a Shrek type of writing. But then 9/11 happened and I really questioned everything. I said, "Who cares who Angelina Jolie is dating or what this particular star is wearing?" It seems so shallow to me in the great scheme of things. And I don't know about you. I mean, I remember exactly where I was when 9/11 happened, and
Oh, I do too.
I just questioned what I was doing, and I was searching for something. And Mason, when you're looking for something, when your heart is saying there's something better or bigger, or different for me, opportunities will happen when you're open to them anyway. And I was listening. I was in Los Angeles, stuck in traffic, as you always are. Doesn't matter what time.
You ought to
And I
try
was
Orlando.
I was channel surfing. And do you know when you channel surf, you just hitting whatever. And I landed on a station so unique in Los Angeles. It was not a commercial radio station. It was a community sponsored one. So these were people that were volunteers that were hosting shows that it was so refreshing. And during a time when everybody was just terrified and scared. So I was so impressed with this. I just said, I felt that pull. And this is the pull that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners have. But we have this pull, if it's to meet someone, to introduce ourselves, if it's to explore an opportunity a little bit more, or just to be curious. And so I drove to that radio station. I parked, I went in, and I said, "Can I just walk around and thank everybody?" And the receptionist said, "You're here. Wait, you're not here to complain about anything?" you know, they're not used to people saying nice
Oh,
things,
yeah.
right?
Unfortunately, that's
So
true.
it's true. And so I just came from a very grateful heart and I walked around and somebody said, "Hey, what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I work for America Online and I'm a cartoon character talking about Hollywood." And they said, "That's great. You should think about volunteering." And I was like, "That's a possibility I could do." Yes, yeah. So I started volunteering. And the next thing is I blinked my eyes and it was 20 years later and I've been working at the radio station for 20 years as a producer, as a writer, and then as a host. I had the opportunity. Someone was sick. It's that Hollywood story. The star, their legs broken. Kid, you got to go on stage. And I had imposter syndrome big time. I was scared to death because I had hidden behind words and behind, a cartoon character. And I was really good at what I did, but I was scared to take the microphone because I was worried about what people might think. What if I mess up? It's 5 o'clock drive time. That's one of the most listened to time slots. And so I got into the studio. I pulled the microphone close. I put the headphones on. The on air light went on and my whole life changed. It was as if I could hear the audience as they were listening to me. It was like every word that came out of my mouth was the right word to say. And that began 20 years of honing in that craft. And I loved every minute of it. And I've met some amazing people and interviewed some incredible folks. But when I was talking to these people, I always had this sort of intuition drop in and say, "I love their website, but if they did this or that, or have they ever thought about writing a book about?" So after the interview, I would just pull them aside and I would just give them my suggestions or things that I thought would be very beneficial for them. And many of them just said, "Oh my God, how do you do that?" And I said, I can't help myself. I'm like with my mom getting dressed and I'm saying, instead of the go-go boots, you need to write a book. You need to do this, do that. And quite a few of them took me seriously. And some of them even hired me to work on their business, on their branding and their website. And then
That's an
it just
interesting
moved. It
story.
just moved really quickly. Yeah.
Because what I'm taking away from this is you got to hone your craft under the secure blanket of an anonymous cartoon character before cancel culture arrived. So you could
Yeah.
literally say how you truly felt. And I'm willing to bet that your ability to communicate how you truly felt about things resonated with the audience authentically.
Absolutely.
And now with cancel
Absolutely.
culture and the media the way it is, I can see where people would want to curate when their actual name and face and
Mhm.
vibe is out there. I can see why people would curate that or feel tempted to curate that, and how it might cost them authenticity and cool points in the real world. And
Yeah.
I you also had a unique situation of being able to talk to people from or your appeal to people from 8 to 80, where now the world is so much more
Mm.
compartmentalized, but you
Yes.
develop your skill set in a
Yeah.
safe way. And
I still
the
deliver
impo
my content for that way, though.
really?
Well, now there was I can't remember. I wish I could remember the person who said this because I would love to give them proper credit. But the concept is to deliver your content really for the average fifth grader. And that's so that you make sure that everybody understands what you're saying and your intention. And even though I did get to sort of back then speak honestly and authentically, and trust me, some of my movie reviews were like, and when I say brutal, I mean, I was just like, I need my 2 hours back. You know, I
Sure.
mean, I was never mean. And the other thing is that I'm highly empathic. So it's knowing how to, it's like if you're in a leadership position, it's knowing how to communicate with your staff, with your team, and how to inspire them, but also to call out the things too that need to be done and not have this divide. I was never divided into this thing of, I am the holy guru and you must come to me for all the wisdom. I was right there with them. So even if I was interviewing people like on the radio station, I was right there with the audience. And this is something that I think a lot of business owners, a lot of leadership and even thought leaders, sometimes they miss is that connection with the audience or the connection with their clients, that connection with the customers. When you put yourself in their position, and let's face it, when it comes down to it, in business, it's all about the customer. It's all about the audience. It's not about you. You need to
Right.
have your expert authority and you can display that in many different ways, but it's really about the people's lives that you change in the process, right?
See, that's something that is important to me when you talk about people's lives you change in the process. I've had friends and peers come up to me, whether it's before I would go speak in front of a large audience or come on and do this with people who are, in a lot of cases, famous and very, very respected in their niches. And like, don't you get nervous? I'm like, I absolutely do not get nervous. I am so excited. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And it's because I learn so much from the people that I get to visit with,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
while I may not have all of the expertise and I don't have the answers, neither does the audience. Our job together, me and the audience, is to be able to extract that value and share it. And when I feel like I am the giver and that anything that I say or do is going to help the people who are investing their time, that's a win-win for everybody. It just takes away the pressure, makes it a lot easier. So,
Yeah.
out of curiosity, you are known as the expert authority coach, but what does expert authority really mean and why is it becoming so critical for business leaders right now?
You know, expert authority, I'll tell you first what it is not. It's not how many followers you have on social media. It's not how much money you have in the bank. It's not the credentials that you have on your wall, in frames. It's the confidence that in your particular field, you are very confident in what you know and you have the ability to communicate and deliver that to whichever audience. I work with authors, I work with coaches, I work with small business owners. I work with business coaches, and then it's all about that confidence, not no arrogance, but the confidence. Are there other? Because the expert authority coach is really a unique way of saying I'm a business coach. Okay, it's almost like a business slash life coach because I tend to work with people on their lives as much as their business because we're tied. They're not separate, right? But it's really a glorified business coach. Now, are there business? Oh my goodness, there's like a gazillion business coaches out there and a gazillion life coaches out there, but there's no one who has my experience and expertise. And I just got through telling you sort of my journey to where I'm at, right? Nobody has 20 years in broadcasting that I had. Nobody has the experience at AOL that I had. Nobody has growing up in Los Angeles during a time when this was amazing. It actually was amazing. It was multicultural. I mean, it was just whatever you're told as an American kid too, back in the day, you can do anything. You can achieve anything if you put your attention to it and you work for it, right?
Sure.
So while there's a bunch of different business coaches out there, there is no one that's unique like me. And I say this to my clients as well. A lot of times, one of the biggest questions I get is, I want to become a coach. I want to start up my coaching business. But isn't that field saturated? Isn't it already saturated? Aren't there already a bunch of coaches? And I say, yes, there's a bunch of coaches, but there is nobody like you. There's no one that has your energy, your imprint, your vibe. And when it all comes down to it, it's about energy. It's
I was
about
on
what you put out.
I had, interviewed earlier today a gentleman, and he had been in executive search and placement for decades and has placed hundreds of executives, and we were talking about the first 90 days, do's and don'ts when a CEO or an executive arrives at the new company, and what are some things you do and what are some of the things that you don't, and one of the things that they suggested was that they need to expand their visibility in a public way.
Yeah.
And his advice to these folks stepping into these new roles is you don't wait around to be told what to do. It's something you have to take the initiative to
Yes.
put yourself out there as an expert. And granted, I can see how some people would have a hesitance to do that because you spoke about imposter syndrome, but they forget that in the land of the blind, the guy with the one eye is the king. You don't have to see
Mhm.
everything perfectly, but if you have unique perspectives and experiences and that other people don't have, that is of value to the people that can't see it or haven't experienced what you've experienced. And if you can help them avoid tripping over some of the same rocks and obstacles that are right in front of them that they can't see and don't know are there, you're going to have loyalty and you're going to have impact and you're going to have trust and a relationship with that audience that you would have never had if you didn't have the guts to
Yes.
share what your story is and what your experiences have been. What is the most common mistake that you see entrepreneurs, executives, or consultants make when they try to build their personal brand?
Well, a lot of times they're not building their personal brand. They're fitting in a position, right? They're filling a position. They're putting themselves in a space, and a lot of times it's hiding their genius. It's focused basically a lot of times it's focused on that particular business or that company, but like you were saying, their knowledge and their life experience could motivate or inspire so many people. And I've worked with some business owners who they're like, "Well, this is who I am. You know, I'm the CEO or I'm the, CFO and that's all I that's all I am." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no, you there's a whole group of people out there that are not in your company, in your corporation that could benefit from you." It depends on the personality, but public speaking, being a guest on podcasts and sharing your story so people can relate and be inspired by it. But it's stepping into and that imposter syndrome, I'll let you know, Mason, most of the people we all experience imposter syndrome at some point in our lives. And it's never a thing that you necessarily get over, like, a cold. It's not something like that and you never have it again, but it's something that affects us when we have to stretch. When we're asked to do something that we're not used to or we've never done before, it feels scary because we worry about what if I mess up? What are people going to think? That's the number one thing. What are people going to think, right? If I do mess up. And what I talk to my clients with, I say most people who experience imposter syndrome are actually high achievers. They're people that want to do the best. They've scored the best in school. They've got all the credentials. They're high achievers. And so the pressure is on them. And when you realize that the commodity right now is what people are craving is authenticity, realness, and truth. We see it all around us. We have woken up as a species. Now I can see somebody on a video or on the news or anywhere. I can see them, and as soon as they start talking, I say, "Oh, you're lying." Can smell it and feel it. So when you have someone who's being authentic, you feel it in your bone. You're like, yes, I may not agree with them, but what they're doing right now is they're speaking authentically and they're speaking their truth.
And I
And that's
actually
what we
root
want to
for
do.
and I root
Yeah.
for the people that are obviously new at it and aren't
Yes.
comfortable and are messing some things up because in the big scope of things, it's like that's how you learn. And you have to from someone who's been doing this, you have to be willing to suck at something new until you get better at it, and there's no escaping that initial learning phase. Now,
It's
the
human.
upside
It's being human.
The up
It's being
the
human.
upside to that, and I think back, and I can speak from personal experience here, launch the podcast, is when you're figuring it out, like I started doing videos probably, like, I was an early adopter of that, it made sense to me. But the
Yeah.
first videos I made talk about stiff and boring and, like, awful. Now with when looking back in hindsight, they were awful, but they were also necessary, and fortunately, no one was watching them when they first first started anyway, so not a big loss. But
Right.
I'm hoping to encourage anyone who's listening that's thinking about stretching a little bit, that
Yes.
it's okay. All the cool stuff happens outside your comfort zone in the first place. And when you first start out, don't take it the wrong way, but not that many people care or listening anyway when you first start. And as you
Yeah.
get better, then you will acquire more influence and build a bigger audience. Wow, what do you know? Those
Yeah.
two things grow together. Here's a different question for you. With all of the noise and competition for attention, what are
Yeah.
some of the secrets of getting attention? And here's the key part: without doing something so silly or absurd that it tarnishes your brand or reeks of desperation. Because
Yes.
that's a real thing. People like when, especially if they've got a big ego, or maybe they have accomplished a lot, and they're like they don't understand that the world's not beating down their door and dropping everything to hear what they have to say,
You're right.
and they're like, "Well, I've got all this valuable information. I know all this stuff. I'm the CEO of this XYZ company, and I do, and I have," and no one's listening. And then that for those
Yes.
folks, some of which have, and I don't mean this as a shot, but some of them have some egos,
Yes.
and it pisses them off that they're not getting attention. And the temptation at a certain point is, "Hey, what do I got to do to get attention?" And there's that temptation there to do something that is
To
off
dance in
brand.
their living room in their underwear or something, right?
Yes.
Right.
So so
Yes.
what advice do you have for getting attention without doing
Yeah.
something super silly or absurd?
Well, for me, it's so individualistic, right? It depends on the person and the personality. And I had talked a little bit earlier about that energy and that vibe, and it's not getting woo-woo. We have an energy that we put out, okay? If you noticed when I reached out to you, I sent you my media kit, and you could see there's photos of me. I have images of me on my website, and the main one is this photograph that you can't. I have my headphones on in this picture. I have a microphone. My eyes are shut because I have this expression of joy, right? And so what we really need to be aware of is how we're coming across. That energy that we're putting across is very, very important.
I love that
And
term energy. Energy,
yeah, it is.
that's a tip.
It is so important because in those images that you have on your profile or in your marketing material or anything like that, people are getting a hit. They're getting a hit off of you. And so you want to make sure that you're represented well. So that's number one. A big mistake that people do is they don't pay attention to those things, right? Another big thing that people do is, and this doesn't matter where you're at, they make it all about themselves. And again, it's not about you. I can sit there and Mason, I can tell you, I can go, here's my experience and why I'm an expert authority. I worked in media for 20 years. Then I was a podcaster for 11 years. Still am. I have 3 podcasts. I've worked with people on their website and their branding and they're getting them a podcast. And okay, that's all great, but it's not about me. It's about the people's lives that I change, right? And so this is a big mistake that I see all kinds of business owners and coaches as well. You go to their website and there's nothing about how they can help me. Like, I want to know, what can you do for me? If I give you an hour of my time or 10 minutes listening to you, what am I going to go away with? What am I going to come home with? And
Right.
some of the best speakers in the world know this, that it is not about themselves. They can put their signature story in. We all have a story, and I
Sure.
and I work with my clients on creating that. What's that story that we can use that connects you so you're not some monolithic, statue?
Sure.
Because when people can relate to you and they can imagine, even though people, not everybody that listens to the show grew up in Los Angeles and had a mother from Casablanca and who was a single mom and had the same experience. But when I told you that story, everybody could visualize it. A little kid, a little girl looking up and admiring her mom, right? And having
Sure.
that validation that her opinion mattered. So that's the thing that we want to do is we want to welcome the outside world, our audience, potential clients, customers. We want to welcome them into our world, but we want to make sure that they know that they're going to gain something out of it. They're either going to be inspired, educated, informed, motivated, entertained, if that's the thing. So it does depend on the person. It depends on the industry that they're in, but it's really, I try and make sure that people realize that it's about who you serve and what they're going to get from
So
that.
I'm going to challenge you to go a little bit deeper
Okay.
because so I agree with everything you're saying. I am very well read on this, and I talk to folks on this all the time. And
Yeah.
the advice you're giving is excellent advice. Lots of other true experts have given very similar advice to what you're saying here.
Yeah.
I've seen the formula. What does your company do? We do ABC for X, Y, and Z, even if D. And it's a formula, and you plug in your stuff, and it's benefit oriented to the people. And at a certain point in time, when everyone else is doing that same formulaic benefit, blah, blah, I have to
Yeah.
believe, because that's how I feel. And I know everyone's not me, but I feel sometimes that I am Charlie Brown listening to the teacher go, wah, 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 wah. It all sounds like the same stuff to me. And it doesn't grab my attention. Even if it's benefit oriented, it comes
Yeah.
off as corporate fluff.
That's
And
because
it does,
yeah, that's because
that
they're
doesn't
allowing
resonate with me.
ChatGPT to write that for them as well.
And,
It's
and,
yeah,
but what you said about energy, now that was a
yeah,
gem.
yeah,
And I am forming the opinion, and of course it can change as times do, but as of right now, at this point in time, that what you said about energy is more important than all that other stuff, because that is unique and it is remarkable and it is different and it is specific to you. My
yeah,
question is, how do you amplify that and get that noticed and use that to impact your ecosystem or your world instead of the blah, 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 blah
yeah,
benefits that everyone's been
yeah,
taught to do and everyone does do. So it sounds the same. So I told you I'd go a
yeah,
little deeper. So I'd put
yeah,
you on the spot a little
yes.
bit, but I know you can handle
No,
it. What's your
no,
thoughts?
because it's all energy. And once you're aware of that, instead of going through the mechanics of the day and we're going to have a staff meeting today and this is what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the bottom line and da, 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 da. When you realize that it's all energy, then the words that you use, the things that you do change. I have probably I worked in a situation where we had general managers, okay? And I was put into a position at this radio station to actually be they asked me to be the general manager for a year because it was crazy stuff going on. But there were general managers that would come in. They have a staff of very talented people. We're talking producers, hosts, technicians, computer guys, right? And they would come in and they would go into their office and shut the door. And at 5 o'clock, they would open the door and they would leave. Now tell me the energy that person has produced in that very creative space. It was crap.
Yeah.
He was getting a big paycheck. And when there was an opportunity for a media thing or a email letter that would go out, it would be from the director of this. He wasn't directing crap. When I had my opportunity, I didn't know what I've never been a man. I didn't know anything about it. A budget and a board. I had to deal with board members and FCC license. I was like, are you imposter syndrome big grabbed me. But you know what? That door was always open. I would walk around and ask people, I know you're in this position, but are you really happy? Is this what you really want to do? I knew what every single person did. When the cleaning crew came in, I got up and spoke my really bad Spanish, that I could.
Hablas un poquito.
I say, oh, gracias, gracias, pero, I would mix my English in with my Spanish. But the difference was that I had an energy that people felt they could come to me. So they did come to me. They came with me, their ideas, their issues that they had. So it was a very different vibe. And
So how do you
that's what the
amplify that?
importance of that.
So how do you amplify that in today's world
Mm.
where the audiences are overwhelmed with stimuli?
You pick your lane. So there's different outlets that you can have. And as you know, as somebody who has a podcast, it's a brilliant, brilliant tool. It's a brilliant megaphone, not only for you and your SEO and your name and your business, but also you're bringing other people and you're creating another type of energy, right? So
Sure.
it's a great opportunity. Some of my clients, they're not equipped to be a podcast host. And so I would not lean them in that direction, or even a podcast guest. Their personality isn't such. that being a podcast guest would be a great move for them. But they're really good at writing. They're really great at communicating big ideas and putting them on paper. So we might tell them to, let's start writing that book. Let's get it out there in whatever comfortable way you can. But still, I believe that one of the most powerful things that you can do is to do video.
I do too.
Video is how people are they're going to look at you and not judge you, but they're going to get an imprint off of you.
Well, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000,000.
Absolutely. And I'll go to websites of some businesses and clients, and I'll go, there's lots of blah words. And I know a lot of ChatGPT wrote it because I can tell. And it's all this long dashes everywhere. And it's this long diatribe. And I say, if you want to connect with your audience, put up a welcome video. So it's above the fold. When people go to your website, that video starts playing right away. And you're connecting with that person right away. And you're saying, hi, welcome. This is who I am. This is what I hope I can do for you. Or this is what I want to do for the world. Whatever.
Sure.
That video is a huge difference maker for people. But you got to be comfortable being in front of a camera.
That takes a little practice.
If you're not, and you're slimy and you're nervous and you're scared, people will smell it. We can smell desperation. We can see it and smell it.
So where should business leaders focus first if they want to increase their visibility and times of the essence? Because it's not like folks running businesses got an abundance of free time. You mentioned a little bit about staying in your lane, but how do you get started? What I mean by that, you went into, you pick your lane, start with what you're good at, but where do they find the content? Where do they?
Yes.
What advice would you give to someone who's just getting, that says, okay, Christine, I believe you. Writing is my thing.
Yes.
Video's not. This is my lane. Where do I start?
I highly suggest working with somebody who can help you. And if it's not a coach, if it's a mentor, somebody who's already been there, done that. Because remember, you're an expert at what you do. You may not be an expert at creating social media videos, let's say, right? Or
Probably
you
aren't.
may not be,
Probably
you
aren't.
may not, yeah. One of the things that I love doing is writing. I love writing books and publishing books. It's one of the best ways to increase your expert authority. So I highly recommend people do that. Now, then when they think about writing a book, they think it's going to be like a Tom Clancy novel. And I'm like, no, write a little guide. I have a book. My latest book is so small that there's no room on the spine for my name. It's like 90 pages. It's a bestseller though, because I'm giving people something that they need and want, and I'm doing it in my style. It's written in a fun way. So there's lots of different things that you can do to increase your expert authority. Number one, get a bestseller out there. You can self-publish. Another thing is trademark your name or your phrase that is unique to you. So I have the expert authority coach. I went through and did the trademark on that. Christine Blosdale, the expert authority coach, because I know the power of visuals. When you see a little TM next to anything, if it's McDonald's or Coca-Cola or the expert authority coach, when you see the little TM, you know that I'm taking this professionally. You know that I invested time, money, effort, all of that in order to get that trademark. So if you have a phrase, if you have a title of who you are, and you can apply a trademark to it, it's one of the best things you can do. So the really important thing is that great headshot. The trademark of something that you have is fantastic, but then start creating the content that's going to bring your expert authority up. So that's going to be a book. That might be a podcast. That might be even just putting out if you have great business tips, getting on a platform where your audience is. Your audience may not be on TikTok. It might all be on LinkedIn. Then you start creating content for LinkedIn.
That's really good advice.
You have to show up.
And especially the stuff about the book, because I know there are people listening right now who think, that sounds great, but that's so much work, and they don't realize how much it isn't.
It's not. It's not much work at all. I know.
I've written 10 of them. My 10th one just came out. Actually,
oh, congratulations!
Yes, just came out. Thank you. And even if I am comfortable speaking in front of audiences, and I am comfortable on camera, that's not an issue.
Yeah.
But if it were an issue, writing articles and multiple articles can become a book. I literally had one of my books was a culmination of 80 something articles.
Yeah.
So theoretically I'd already had the book written, just a little bit at a time. And then I package it together, and that was a book. I've also found times where I worked for a national sales trainer right out of college, and he always told me my worst pin was better than my best memory. And I took notes. I had manila folders and yellow pads that when I went on sales calls and I'm talked to business owners and executives and very, very smart, accomplished people.
Yeah.
And I took copious notes in those meetings. And I learned and I asked good questions like, what are you doing well? What are your obstacles? What have you tried to overcome those obstacles? What worked? What didn't work? Why? If you had to do over again, what would you do differently? And after a while, I start learning how all of these titans in their industries handled things. And it wasn't long before I had a very long list of notes from lots of different scenarios, lots of stories built in there about how this company solved this problem, that company solved another problem, the other company solved another. And I'm willing to bet that there's people listening that have been on sales calls or have had issues with vendors or have been a vendor and dealt with, and they have all of the content right there. It's just a matter of packaging it. And even if they never speak in front of a stage, or if they never
Yeah.
go on a podcast, or they never go on camera, the exercise of getting clarity of thought and bringing that all together and really defining how you feel about certain things and why based on the experiences, that is a very therapeutic, and I don't want to sound all foofy there either, but that was a very therapeutic experience for me every single time I did
Yes.
it. And it
Yes.
made me sharper and more focused and more concise. And it gave me clarity in the interactions that I had with anybody related to business. And the benefits
Yes.
were just exponential beyond, oh, I've got a book that people can buy and learn about what we do or what I've learned. It's huge.
No, and
So
you tapped into something really important, and this is what I tell so many of my clients is I say, "You're sitting on a gold mine." You're sitting and when I say gold mine, I don't mean even like you're gonna make tons of money. You're sitting on a throne of amazing books and bestsellers. And I'll tell you my thing too. I do this much the same way as you. I have 5 best-selling books. I'm working on my 6th right now, and I'm not a writer. I'm a talker. I'm a speaker. So I take all of the workshops I do, the masterminds, the webinars, the lunch and learns, the podcast episodes, all of the when I'm with my clients, I take all of that content because there's knowledge in that content, all the video content, and I take those and I turn them into chapters in a book.
you're
So
going to love this.
I've got books on podcasting, on how to be a podcaster, how to be a guest on a podcast. I've got a book on social media and branding. And now it's taking what you already have because if I look at a blank Word doc, I'm telling you, Mason, I'll want to vomit. I don't know where to begin, but I can talk my way out of any situation.
I'm going to
So
drop a
that's what I do.
bomb. I'm going to drop a bomb because this is, when we talk about our experiences and the guy with one eye in the land of the blind being the king.
Yeah.
This is personal experience for anybody that's listening out there saying, oh, okay, that's great that you had a bunch of sales calls and you kept your notes. I don't have all those and my memory's hazy. Or, hey, I'm a talker, but I don't have the time to type all that stuff out or I never would. This last book, you're going to love this. I had a guest on, his name was Bryant Wright, and he was the coach at Festus High School in Festus, Missouri, and a cross country team that in the last 17 years has not finished worse. His boys team hasn't finished worse than second place in the state. He
Wow.
won 8 state championships in a row as a coach, and he's done 13 total. And it wasn't just because he had better athletes than everyone else. I mean, that might explain a couple years went
Right.
state championships. Um, then I might thought, well, maybe it's because he has super coaching knowledge about fitness and how to get kids to run faster than every other coach in the state of Missouri, which seems kind of far fetched, but
Yes.
one might be able to make that argument. He said, no, Mason, he goes, I've been to coaching clinics and I gave everybody my entire training program from June all the way through November. So I gave my playbook away. I didn't hold anything back, every single workout in order
Yeah.
to everybody who was there. And you still won all these championships. Yeah. I go, well, maybe you're just a super motivator and this is dependent upon you. He's like, no, he goes, I knew I was going to retire. And I had my assistant coach. I put him in charge of the girls team. So he's the head girls coach for the last 3 years. In his first year as head coach, they got third in state. And then the year after that, they won state and then back-to-back state championships. I said, so you built a system that's not dependent upon your athletes. It's not about your workouts and it's not about you as a person. I said, what'd you build? He goes, I built a culture. And I had this guy in the podcast, and normally I usually talk about 30 minutes ish. We're going long day because I'm super fascinated and you're a good sport. But he, I didn't stop recording for an hour and a half. because
Wow.
he dropped so much wisdom on me
Yeah.
that he discovered in his world of working with, like, he wasn't selling anything. He wasn't offering advice. He wasn't trying to be right. He just said, this is what I did, why I did it this way. And here's what happened. And he just told me. I go, how'd you do it? And he told me how he did it. And there was no way I was going to hit stop record on that. When we got done, I told him, I said, that is a book. He goes like, you're kidding me. I'm like, no. And I downloaded the transcript. So for someone who's not a video guy or someone who's not a talker or not a writer, I downloaded the video transcript of that. And 2 weeks later, I had this book called Built Right, Wright, Wright, because his last
I
name was
love
Wright.
it. Love
And
it.
the people are out there saying, this is so hard. You can't do it. Like, literally had a conversation, a real conversation, an authentic conversation where I asked, how did you do it? And he let the secrets out. And I'm like, everybody who owns a business, manages a team, leads a team, a nonprofit, if you manage or lead people,
Yeah.
this stuff applies. And he just spit so much wisdom. And why? Because I asked him and he told me. I had a recording of it, transcript to a book, done.
Yeah.
This isn't, and
And
people,
that's one
some people,
example. And that's one example. And this person has several books in them. Not
absolutely.
just
He's already working on number 2 and 3. You're
yes,
100% correct.
exactly.
Because
Exactly.
Brian Wright, the one who gave all the content for this book, he just shared the diamonds and gold between his ears and he let it come
Yeah.
out his mouth. And now he knows that he's going to impact lots of people in lots of ways that he may never meet. But
Exactly.
when he puts his head on the pillow at night, he knows that he was a force for good and made ripples in a positive way that wouldn't have happened
Yeah.
if he hadn't done it.
And here's the thing too, you never know who's reading that book. You never know who's watching that video, listening to that podcast. You never know who's in that audience. And sometimes you'll get feedback from people and you'll go, oh my goodness, I feel so good that I helped you through a situation or I inspired you in some way. And I'll give you one last story. And this drives the point home and I always say to my clients, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're writing blogs or your book or you're on a podcast show or you're doing a short video that you want to post on social media, always imagine someone that you truly, truly admire for their wisdom, for their ethics, or whatever. Imagine them consuming your material, reading your book, reading your blogs, watching your videos, whatever. Imagine them, and the caliber of the work that you do is going to be raised. When I was at America Online, I lived in a bubble because I didn't know who was. It was millions of people, but I didn't know who was reading my stuff. There was no videos back then. It was just reading, columns. And I was out to dinner with a friend in West Hollywood in California. And they said, oh, Christine, over there at the table, Lily Tomlin and Jane Wagner, who was her partner at the time. They're married now, but Lily Tomlin's over there. Go say, you should go say hello. I know how much you like her. Get up and introduce yourself and say hi. I said, are you kidding? I'm not going to be that person to go and interrupt Lily Tomlin while she's eating dinner. I'm not going to be that person. And my friend she kept bugging me. You got to do it. Come on now. Come on. So I walked over there very sheepishly. Hi, Lily. Hi, Jane. I just wanted to say, gosh, I really appreciate the work you do. I think you're both amazing. Because Jane is a brilliant writer. Nobody gives her credit for that because it's all focused on Lily. But Jane is like brilliant. And so I just said that. And they looked up. They stopped eating. They looked up. They go, and who are you? And I said, I'm Christine. I'm also known as Beatbox Betty. And they both put down their forks. And they looked up, they looked at each other and they looked at me. And Jane said to Lily, oh my God, Lily, it's Beatbox Betty. And for a split second, I thought they were punking me. I was like, oh, are you mean girl? Are you going to make fun of me? Like, are you, right? Is this going to be? And Lily said, oh my God, Beatbox Betty, we read your column all the time and we think you're so funny. And I was like, excuse me? So here's somebody that I respected and I looked up to that was actually a fan of the work that I did. And I would have never known, right? So trust me, after that, man, my copy was great, man. I was like, I'm writing this for Lily Tomlin and Jane Wagner because I know that they're reading the column. Do that anyway. Even if you don't know who it is, pretend that that person that you admire, that you respect is consuming your content and that you'll level up.
It's My co-author of my book, People Matter Most, was a guy by the name of Jason Greer. And he told me the story not long ago that he got a really nice speaking engagement at a very high profile event because someone had been following his content on LinkedIn for a year and a half and played an influential role on the committee or the search for a speaker on a topic that he happened to have expertise in. And he had built a fan by putting that information out, and someone's like, I want to see if I can get this guy in here to talk. And he did end up getting that engagement. He'd never met them. He didn't know who they were, but they knew who
Yep.
he was
Yep.
and what he stood for and what he was about. And at that point, it was just a matter of making sure that the calendars were clear. So different questions like, what role, in your opinion, does vulnerability play in building trust? And how do leaders know where the line is between authenticity and oversharing?
You know what? I don't run into too many people that do the oversharing, and it's because they're afraid of being vulnerable, right? And I'll tell you that the one of the best ways that you can endear people to you where they trust you is when you do have that when you tap into humanity and you have it's not a vulnerable moment. It's a moment as I'm sure that when you're talking to you've interviewed so many people over the years, and when a guest tells you something maybe a trauma that they had gone through or an obstacle that they had to overcome, and it takes your breath away and you have to have that moment of silence. That's paying respect to that person for what they've gone through, but it's also showing that, wow, that really impacted me, what you just said, right? And not having to fill the void, not having to fill that empty space or that pause. So I think that we, as human beings right now, we are craving authenticity. We're craving realness. So when we see somebody step outside of their own comfort zone to express something that is truly important to them, and even if they get tears in their eyes or they get that lump in their throat, God, we're craving that because
It's
what
real.
it's real. And what we see on the public stage, on news stations and everywhere, it's like a weird bad soap opera. So when we see somebody with true emotion, I love those moments and I encourage those moments. But I think they're worried and they're afraid of showing that it does not show that you're weak. It shows that you're actually very strong and very confident in your empathy and your humanity.
Let me shift gears just a little. So,
Yeah.
how do you help leaders attract the right audience instead of just trying to reach a bigger one?
This is the thing, because we tend to, like, wanna throw everything on the wall, like, all the spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. It's like, I'm gonna put a post on this social media and that social media. You really wanna go where your audience is or your market is, right? Like I was saying earlier, your market might be on LinkedIn and not on TikTok. Mom and pop, brick and mortar places, Facebook is gonna be their strong suit, unless they're very unusual. I was talking about this analogy the other day is that if it's a business that's a brick and mortar like a pizza shop, let's say a pizza parlor, that's very local, right? And so you're going to focus your advertising and your marketing in a very local way, right? Google My Business page, Facebook community, doing maybe also going into the business chamber, all those things, local, local, local. And if you have a really unique way of flipping those pizzas and huge pizzas up in the air, and it's visually amazing, or you have a character, a personality that is really big and exciting, then you can take that little pizza shop that you have and actually create a much bigger, not an empire, but a much bigger business space. And that's by being a personality, by being something that people want to watch. You're intrigued by it. You know how many there's TikTok creators who have an Italian, grandmother, and they're like, it's Nonna. We're gonna have dinner with Nonna, and Nonna spits out some major, major wisdom, but she does it in an interesting way, and people are glued to it because we all want that Nonna, right? So it depends on the personality, and you want to go though where your tribe is or where your audience is, and put that content out there. I still say you can post it on other social medias, but you want to really go where your tribe is. That's the important thing.
It's funny that you're saying that. I, in the spirit of authenticity and openness, I grew up in the '80s and I love hard rock, like metal, hard rock. most
Eh,
people my friends would say you're a closet headbanger, but no, I'm not. I love the energy rush of the aggressive, loud music, and I must be on some algorithm for Facebook because there's these 2 kids, I think they're out of Oklahoma, and it's a kid that plays the drums and a kid that plays guitar, and they do jam for just the guitar and drums, and they got their goofy grandfather out there dancing around, and that's all it is. And I wish I could give them props of who they are right now. I know when I'm scrolling through that I look for it, and if it pop up on my feed again soon, which they probably will based on my viewing history, they'll
yes,
come up
yes.
on a regular basis. I'll give them a shout out in the liner notes for this episode. But like that's the kind of stuff that I watch, and they're getting in front of me, and I remember them because and I think I don't know if it's the guitarist or drummers. One of them usually doesn't play with his shirt on, so it's just 2. They look like I think probably late teenagers, early 20s. One playing drum, one playing guitar, just rocking out
Rocking out.
while grandpa does a goofy dance that's awkward at best, but
Yes.
it's like a train wreck. You can't turn away from it. You're watching this old man
And
do
they're
his
making
thing.
bank, and they're
And
probably making
it,
bank,
and you know what though? If those guys did a tour and they came to town, I would probably go see them.
right?
So,
You buy
so
a ticket.
they know who their niche is, I guess.
Yeah,
Let me think. If there was one piece of advice that you could give to anybody listening, what would it
yeah.
be, and why is that important?
I have a saying that's on the bottom of every page on my website, and it's, "Remember this, if you're not seen and heard, you're not hired." Okay? I don't care how brilliant you think you are, or how many degrees you have, or what level you are in your life, in your career. If you're not seen and heard, you're not hired. Nobody is going to come down your street, up to your door, knock on it and say, "Oh my gosh, we've got this great opportunity for you." Opportunities come when you are being seen and when you're being heard.
Well, just like Jason Greer when he got the speaking engagement from some random
Yes.
follower who, for a year and a
Yes.
half, said, "This guy is on point. I like what he
Yeah.
says. His perspective is valuable. His experience makes sense, and our audience, whoever that was, needs to hear this guy and what he has to say." Just he literally got a call, and he ended up speaking at the United Nations too. But it literally
Wow.
just that opportunity found him because he was out there
Yes.
providing value authentically in spirit of service.
And when I say too, being seen and heard, it's all individualistic for people. But like we were talking about the power of video. Video is so powerful. So if there's one thing that that you do, it's start getting comfortable being on video. And for some people, it's going to be very difficult. All right. It's going to be tough. Then work with a coach, work with somebody that can make you feel comfortable, that can get you more comfortable. I have a client who's very niched business, very niched. And when I had him do a video for his website, because the website was just all catalogs and it's an antique fishing books collector, right? But he has made a really good living at this. And I'm looking at the website and it's just all catalog-y things and lots of text. And I said, "You're the antiquarian angler." And he's got this big beard and he's like, he's Aussie, Australian, big beard. I said, "I want you to create a video welcoming people and you tell them how to use the website because it can be complicated, but just tell them how they can reach out to you." The first time he did the video, he was stiff. He was reading like a teleprompter and talking like this, like a robot. And I am that. And we just did it again and again and again. I got him more comfortable with communicating. And now he's doing videos. He's recording videos for all of these different specialty books. He's got a great welcome video where there's music underneath him. There's, captions that are there. And he's putting a face to his business instead of it
I'm gonna
just,
piggyback. I'm gonna piggyback on what you're saying, and then I wanted to ask you how people can learn more about you and connect with you if they want to grow. I always ask people, like, do you have a favorite actor? Or if you could sit down with your favorite actor or your favorite rock star or your favorite author,
yeah,
who would it be? And people don't have a hard time coming up with an answer. Oh, I'd like to sit down with Harrison Ford, or oh, I'd like to go hang out with Sammy Hagar or whoever. Depends on who your fans are. But anyway, why? You don't know these people. You don't know anything about them. but you feel like you do. This was years ago, but I guess the TV show Survivor is having an episode right now, and there's a character on there. His name's Ben Wade, but they call him Coach. I think his mom even calls him Coach. And he used to be a soccer coach at Southwest Baptist University in Bolivar, Missouri. And I was down with seeing one of my buddies from high school, and we were hanging out in Springfield, Missouri at this little bar called Trolley's, which interestingly enough was owned by this guy, Aaron Brugge, who was on another reality TV show called The Bachelor, Small World. But anyway, I was sitting out on the sidewalk part of it with the chairs and whatever and the tables on the sidewalk of the bar Trolley's in downtown Springfield, Missouri, and with my buddy. And Coach from Survivor walks by. And I tapped my buddy in the shoulder, like, hey, that's Coach from the reality TV show Survivor. He's like, it is. So when he walked by, I was like, hey, Coach. And he waved and said, hey, very friendly. I said, I'll buy beer if you'll tell Survivor stories. He asked his buddy, he's like, hey, we got time? He's like, sure. He sat down with us, I don't know, maybe half hour, 45 minutes, at least for one beer. And I was looking for get another one because the stories were awesome. But here was the takeaway. He was an absolute stranger. I didn't know him, but because I had seen video and seen him on TV and seen how he'd interacted with people, I felt like I knew him to the point that I
Yes.
felt comfortable enough to say hello, to introduce myself, and to offer to spend money to spend time with him.
Yes.
That's the power of video. So
Yes.
your advice is a home run, and I hope everyone listening recognizes that for what it was. Get comfortable on video, because what happens when you go out and you see prospects or you see customers and they're like, or very prospects who you've never met, and they say, hey, it's good to see you again. And they feel like they know you.
Yes.
They like you and they trust you because they have interacted short of being there. It's amazing. So
Yes.
if people want to know more about you, your company, your books, the work you do, what's your invitation for them and how they can best connect with you?
The easiest way is to go to my website, and if they want to learn a bit more about their expert authority and they want to find out what's possible for them and and go down that rabbit hole, they can go to expertauthoritycoach.com. There's a free discovery call button that's all over the place. It's expertauthoritycoach.com, and if you can't remember that and you go, oh, the expertauthoritycoach.com takes you there, and you can check out all the different things, the books and the programs that I have. But most importantly, it's having that discovery call with you, because I can't help you unless I speak with you and I learn about your business. What is it that you've been doing and what is it that you want to do? And then I can give you my advice by looking at from the outside in, because sometimes we need somebody from the outside looking into our business. We think that the world knows what we're communicating, our messaging, and a lot of times it's just not hitting. That's my invitation to your audience. They can book a call with me absolutely
Well,
free.
and on a side note, I can't help but to mention, if you haven't thought of this already, which you probably have, or if you haven't done this already, which you probably have, I'm willing to bet you could take those meeting notes from all of those people that you have those conversations with and talk about the stories of transformation about before and after they worked with you. And I would be willing to bet you could assemble a whole book full of short stories, all of which would be valuable to listeners who are going through the same situations and would make them
Yes.
feel comfortable stepping outside of their comfort zone, because all these other
Yes.
people did. And I'm willing to bet a lot of those other people were probably in more difficult, challenging situations than some of the people that are
Oh yeah.
thinking about help. So
Oh yeah.
that would be,
Yeah.
so go ahead and tell me, you probably got a book on that, don't you?
Well, in the newest book that I'm working on right now, the Expert Authority Code, I do have a couple client success stories that are in there that a lot of people can relate to. A
Cool.
lot of people can
I
relate to.
figured you might. I've spent enough time with you today to already figure out that you're on top of it. But I really
Yeah.
appreciate the time. It's been
Thank you, Mason.
thanks for getting up at 6:30 in the morning in Australia,
Yeah,
come
it's my pleasure.
Americans in the afternoon. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. I had a great time. Thank you so much.